want to create it by go. You know the thing.
Walked in this place and said, wow, this is a huge dome. Bozeman's got it all right.
Stage 2.
Go.
Flight directors, go for launch. We have liftoff. Vehicles pitching downrange. Execute. Vehicle supersonic. Stage separation.
You guys know what this represents? Well, it's the calm before the storm.
Let's for storming.
Could be the calm before the storm. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Give us a hint on your decision.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode number 80. Can you believe it? 80 of Just Our Take. I am your host, John, and this is my co-host, Dave. Dave, we need a little more light on your face. You look like you're hiding out. Are you in witness protection program or something?
I might be. Is my face still blurred? Do I still have some kind of a thing over? No, I don't. Yeah, I'll need to get some lights.
We're gonna go ahead and disguise your voice for us, would you?
You know what? I think I can do that. I can.
When I was in deep undercover.
Anyway, welcome everybody. What's your disclaimer? I know you got one.
I have a disclaimer. Look, John and I may have some crazy theories, and I just want to say that that's the impetus of how we got together in the first place. Is we started to share some of our a little bit crazy, not ready for prime time theories, but you might enjoy them. You might find them a little bit entertaining. But here's the thing: it's just our take. That's why we call the show. It's just our take. You may think we're crazy, and that's fine. You may disagree vehemently. That's fine. You may think we've missed a few facts or we're way off base. That's fine. Throw it in the comments. Let us know. And if you like what you hear and you agree, then you can let us know that too. And as John always reminds you, you can always hit the little thumbs up thing somewhere. But that's my yes. Do you like my hat? So cool. And that's why I need a light so you can see it better.
That is the new hat. And speaking of the new hat, let's get ready and jump right in. We have a sponsor for the show. It's Steel Rebel Design. Kim and company over at Steel Rebel Design takes care of all of our hats, cups, hoodies. And by the way, we got some really cool hats, t-shirts, and other tchotchke. You can get the Trump fight shirt that was worn at several of the rallies leading up to the election. Here's a couple of fine folks that wore the Trump fight shirt at a rally in, of all places, California. Here is another patriot wearing the Just Our Take commemorative shirt. That takes us all the way back to the beginning of Just Our Take, before we were really doing a lot of fun stuff that we're doing now. David is wearing our Dark MAGA Just Our Take black on black, and this is our snow camo Make America Great Again hat. So this one is more of this is a flex fit, but it's a mesh back. It's really a nice hat. Great for spring and summer, and we just love the way the puff design came out. Kim and company did a great job over at Steel Rebel Design. So please, if you go down below into the description box, you'll find a link there. It says merch and or MAGA hat. Click on that. It'll take you right to where you can buy the new hats. We are very appreciative of our sponsor, Kim, and the crew over at Steel Rebel Design. Thanks, Kim.
I do like it. I do like it. We'll get an extra one for somebody in my family, because I think they'll wear it.
Hey, I just before we jump deep into this thing, someone at the group tonight, I had a little gathering, and some of the folks at the gathering watched the show, and it was actually producer Marie asked me to put a picture of the Trump bobble that you see right there. That's the Trump bobblehead that I got. Mrs. John got that for me for Christmas. Here is the Trump bobble. It's anatomically correct.
Great.
It's got the blood in the ear and the blood coming out of his mouth, and yeah, it's awesome. So he's watching over our show as we speak.
Right. It should be a little button. Fight, fight, fight.
I know, right? Wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
I told you I'd put it on there for you, Marie. So thank you as always for being a part of the show.
John,
listen, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to
We're
say,
both jumping down the same road. I know.
you know what? You go ahead. No, you took a sip, so I'll go. So, hey, what is today's date? Are we the 12th? We're at the 12th, right? We're 8 days away. We're in the middle of the storm, right? Calm before the storm. I think this is the storm. It's happening, and that firestorm, which thank goodness things look like they're moving in the right direction right now in SoCal. But I know that you've got a lot on that topic. And so I'm excited to dig into it. I know you've got some interesting theories I think we'll need to explore. I have a special request, if I can find some time for it, on the 10th, President-elect and former president, same person, Trump. What is it? Unconditional
discharge.
Yeah, unconditional discharge. I mean, that's just it's something you hear all the time in the courts, right? Unconditional discharge.
Wait, don't move. Don't move. Hang on.
Not moving. Sarcasm alert. You hear it all the time, right? It's just such a common end to a court battle. So, of course, we
will come back to it. We will come back to it.
Just for a couple minutes on this topic. And let's see. And I mean, that's enough. I don't know if you've got something else. Greenland, we can always talk about Greenland for a minute, but I think what's happening in California, I think will probably take the majority of our time, I think, tonight.
Yeah, why don't we jump right in? I know that you've got some pictures. People were asking. So first of all, I think by now we would have thought that this would have calmed down a little bit. It would have not as been such a topic, but it's only as more information comes out, this is becoming a bigger and bigger topic. People were asking, how on earth does a fire spread like that? There's so many people out there trying to say that it was a directed energy weapon. Look, I'm up for all of those kind of conspiracies. Usually, I just don't see the hallmarks of a directed energy weapon. I also have some knowledge of how those work. I can't go beyond that. I just don't believe that this particular firestorm was caused by a directed energy weapon. In fact, if there was a directed energy weapon, it was maybe HARP causing the ultra high winds that happened down there. But I believe, and David will show you here, that the winds actually spread that fire.
If you're wondering, How is it they can't control this? Well, when you've got anywhere from on the low end 60 mile an hour at one point to 100 mile an hour winds, and it's blowing the embers off trees like this. And this is just one small clip. Imagine hundreds of trees, hundreds of other structures on fire, blowing embers like this. That is why that fire spread so quickly. How it got started, good question. I know there's some speculation about it. I don't know. I do know that once it was started, then it's about what were the resources available and how was it managed? And I think there's a lot of conversation around that. But I think it'd be tough anywhere in the country, I don't care how prepared you are, to address a fire that's blowing like that.
Yeah, here's another from kind of the same perspective.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
So it blows right down the house, right down the yard into that house, and immediately the place is ablaze.
It just goes.
So,
yeah. So how did it start? Okay, it's probably not directed energy weapon. Could it be arson? Maybe. There's a few fires, and based on the direction of the wind flow, it's hard to believe they all started because of those winds. So there's multiple fires. I think at one point there were 8 fires total, a couple of them bigger, but did they all start by natural reaction of wind blowing across power lines?
So there's a couple things that we know. We know that there have been 4 arrests. One of them they've kind of let go for now until they gather more information. But the rest of them they caught red-handed starting the fire up in Eaton. There's another one out in Acton that was the guy was caught red-handed. The one that the Kenneth fire, that one he had a torch, a blowtorch with him. Basically, it was a MAP gas torch. But the problem is no one actually saw him lighting it. They saw a fire. They saw him walking away with that torch in his hand. So the police said, we don't have enough information to say he actually did it. So I think that's the one that Josh is talking about, the flamethrower. So they're still going with the original ignition at Palisades was caused by a reflare of a previous fire. With those kind of winds, not uncommon, not unreasonable. But if you look at this map that David's showing, the wind would be coming from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, and generally that direction. Not that dramatic, but general speaking, that's the direction of wind flow. So if Palisades, which is the biggest fire that you see in the center there, was blowing, the winds was blowing in that direction, it's not going to start the Acton fire. Embers are not going to go over there. Certainly not going to start the Eaton fire. Not going to start the fire that was up in Thousand Oaks, or not Thousand Oaks, sorry, Ventura. Those were clearly arson fires. So, and I don't think the Ventura one's showing on there anymore. That one was pretty active, and they knocked it out pretty quick. So,
yeah.
So it's safe to say the others were
something else happened.
Yep.
And we both know a lot of people in the Southern California area, and it's tragic that fire up there in Altadena claimed a lot of homes, and some of those homes are owned by family members of people that I'm close to, and it's sad. These were not movie stars that live up in that Pasadena, Altadena area. They're just everyday folk.
They're folks, yeah. Well, and even down in the Palisades area, although some of those houses were, several $1 million. I know that you've got a link to a house that was last sold in '86, and it was far from $1 million house.
I was going to say, let me give me a second here to.
Yeah. So my brother and his wife lost their house in Palisades. So that's it's beyond a bummer. There's a lot of memories and a a lot of personal items that they lost that they'll never be able to replace.
So, here's
put it on stage. Thank you.
Okay, so here it helps, doesn't it? So this is just a house in a neighborhood, right? I mean, there's some nice houses up the hill, but I mean, look, this is just a neighborhood like so many others. They don't look like much, but because of its location over time, it's become very popular. And so it has, a value in Redfin. Let's see, what does Redfin value this property at? $2.6 million is how Redfin thinks about this property. Well, this property last sold 1986. So you start thinking about, okay, the house might be paid off, and look, $8,700 in property taxes. It's a lot of money, but also it's over time, the value of that area has grown. Well, when these folks go to rebuild this house, if it takes more than 2 years, or if they change it, right, all of a sudden they say, we're going to use the lot differently, then it's almost certain that the state of California will say, we're now going to assess the value of this property at current value. Well, current property value when this thing's finished being rebuilt could be the average for the zip code, which is $3.5 million. Care to guess what the taxes are on $3.5 million? It's $43,000 a year in taxes. $43,000 a year. So they go from paying, who knows, the house could be paid off. It's more than 30 years ago. They go from paying $8,700, which is a fair amount of money, to all of a sudden paying, $3,500 a month. Well,
I think if you look at the sale price of that house back in '86, it was $329,000.
Yeah, that's right. 300. Actually, it's right here. $365,000.
65. Okay.
Yeah, which in the '80s that was probably about double.
So not all the houses there are for people that are multimillionaires, and
that's right.
Not all of the houses there are the movie stars. Some of these people bought their houses back in '86 and they haven't moved because, doggone it, you can't afford to move in California. Can you play?
And just a final note on that, John. So you think about the number of people who own properties like that may not be in a position to then pay just for the taxes for that property. When they get there, they're going to have no choice but to either say, it's going to be land, I don't have a house there anymore, or they're going to have to build it and then immediately sell it because they can't afford to hold on to it.
Well, and my theory is that they're never going to approve rebuilding on there. You're going to find all of the permits for builds and everything else. They're just not going to allow it. So
yeah, possible. All right, where do you want me to go?
Actually, go to the DEI assistant fire chief, because we're going to talk a little bit about how did we get here. So there was a cascade of failures, and we can talk about all of those failures, and I think we should. But let's show this clip on the DEI assistant chief.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. You want to see...
First off, I don't care what they look like. I don't care. I care that they're able to do the job. They could all be of one nationality or ethnicity. They may not even speak English. I don't care. If they can operate the equipment and knock down the fire, that's all I care about.
I'm not shaming here, but I've never seen anybody that looks like her before. So bottom line is, she said, if I've got to carry your husband out of the house, he's in the wrong place. Well, really? He's taking a nap or he's sleeping. It's over. He's in the wrong place? Really? I mean, what is wrong with you? How on earth? So this is DEI. They're saying, oh no, DEI doesn't mean that it wasn't merit-based, her promotion. She's been with the fire department forever. If she has that attitude, then it's not merit-based. She should not be a firefighter. She should not be in charge of rescuing anybody.
Right. He got himself in the wrong place. Thank you for your judgment. Guess what? Your job is not to judge. Your job is to respond. No one asked. And if you're saying you can't do it, you're saying you don't want to do it. I'm not sure which, but you've just given yourself an excuse, and regardless, it's unacceptable. My 2 cents. That's my take.
I don't know. Maybe I'm reading more into it, but it sounds like she is a man hater and saying that if you need a woman to carry you out, then, I kind of, that's what I read into it. But again, that's just my take. Man hater.
Hey, and there are, look, let's, there are women that are capable of carrying a 300-pound man out. I don't think it's the norm. So if a woman who could carry a 300-pound man out showed up and competed for the job, then get the job. That's great.
Josh. Oh, Josh.
I can't even say what I'm thinking now. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Okay, I'm not even going to. I have to pause for a minute, clear my head. Okay.
All right. I'm going to jump right into the next one. Do you remember the guy who was one of the moderators during the presidential debates from ABC News?
Yes, Mayor.
Not a vain guy at all, right? I mean, he's just a normal, everyday, rather, I don't know, just a normal, everyday news guy, right?
You want me to pull him up? Oh, you got
David Muir.
Yeah.
Here he is.
So
and
good.
He's doing his reporting out there just like you should be doing.
His fireman's jacket.
Oh, what's on his back, David?
Flames are burning from multiple buildings here, and
What
is that?
Looks like they used clothespins to blouse up his jacket so he looks more svelte and handsome. Using
how they do it. Secret wardrobe techniques.
There you go, David. Yeah. So that's that. That's always important. You got to look great when you're out there reporting on the worst catastrophe in California history.
I want a fireman's jacket too, just like his. Yeah, I'm still not a fan of his. Vain and shallow. He can, and he is.
Yeah. So I want to jump over here. I don't know if can you pull up Joe Rogan real quick?
I can.
So Joe Rogan, it's kind of fun to watch him lately because he's been getting more and more based, as you would call it. He's definitely more on board with what you and I would probably believe in. And so here's something that I pulled from him.
I talked to a fireman once. This is one of the reasons that freaked me out. And he was telling me, he goes, dude, one day, he goes, it's just going to be the right wind and fire's going to start in the right place and it's going to burn through LA all the way to the ocean. And there's not a fucking thing we can do about it.
Sorry.
I go, really? He goes, yeah, we just get lucky. He goes, we get lucky with the wind. He goes, but if the wind hits the wrong way, it's just going to burn straight through LA and there's not going to be a thing we can do about it. Because these fires are so big, dude. When they're talking about like thousands of acres that are burning simultaneously with like 40-mile-an-hour winds. And the wind's just blowing embers through the air, and those embers are landing on roofs, and those houses are going up, and they're landing on bushes, and those bushes are going up, and everything's dry. And once it happens in a way where it's so spread out that there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do.
You just have to evacuate, right?
Nothing they can do. I talked to a
and it's so weird. It's almost like he saw into the future.
Kind of what happened. Yeah, kind of wild. But then we have, if you could pull up, it goes down a little ways there. Newsom on wildlife management.
He's so good.
So Gavin was talking a couple of years ago. I think this was from 21. He was talking a couple of years ago about how what a great partnership he and Joe Biden and the Biden team have, and how they're going to manage the forest fires.
That's what's different now is we are committed as a team, as a partnership with the legislature and other state agencies, including now the federal government, no longer a sparring partner, but a working partner. Federal government, where we're not addressing headwinds, but tailwinds in terms of the support, a memorandum of understanding, doubling our respective commitments to vegetation management and forest management and prescribed burns to support the Biden administration with resources, not just rhetoric, to help this collective cause. It's a different paradigm. It's a different framework. That's what's different now is we are committed.
I love that we are committed to this. Yeah. I mean, and I think about the videos where Trump was on, even on Joe Rogan, going back to Rogan again for a second. He was on Rogan saying, look, there's things you can do. You got to do them now, though. You can't wait till you have a problem. And of course, you know, Newsom, what are lawmakers in California focused on? We're going to try to stop Trump from doing stuff in California. Well, how about you just follow some advice, right? Fill your aqueducts, make sure you've got enough water for your people and for your hydrants. Maybe clear the brush away from the homes. Maybe there's other things you do in forest management. And by the way, because these forests we have houses infiltrating these forests, you do have to treat things differently than if they were a forest in the wild. It's not the same thing because you've now planted thousands of houses. So you have to think differently.
So I also have another video, and we're going to talk about another one of those folks, Karen Bass. So we're building a story here, folks. We're going to tell you all. It's all going to be brought together at the end of this. So what we're doing is we're showing you all the individual pieces, then we're going to come back around and put it all together with the coup de grace. We're going to tell you why we believe what we believe about these fires. So can you play the Karen Bass clip, Scott? If Scott's ready to put that one up for us.
Come on, play that Karen Bass clip. Okay, hold on.
This one's a little bit long, so I apologize in advance. But it's good.
Hold on.
Holding.
This is a high quality, very, very high tech production here. All right. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Roll them.
November 7, 1983. Remember this date, but first, let me introduce you to Karen Bass. Back in the 1970s, community activist Karen Bass went on at least 15 trips to Cuba, many with a group known as the Venceremos Brigade, a Marxist group started by the Castro regime to subvert American interests, weaken democracies, and spread communism around the world. Founded in 1969, the Venceremos Brigade organized trips to Cuba every year for half a century. They attracted the most radicalized and delusional segments of the American left, including overtly Maoist and pro-Soviet communist groups. In fact, a Los Angeles police investigator who infiltrated the group testified to Congress saying that to be a member of the brigade, you had to be confirmed as a Marxist-Leninist. As a brigadista and then moving up the ranks to organizer for the Venceremos Brigade, Karen Bass visited Cuba every 6 months. Their mission? To radicalize young, impressionable American leftists in terrorist tactics and guerrilla warfare. Members of the Venceremos Brigade were even taught how to make bombs.
Jesus Christ.
Karen Bass admits, on her many pilgrimages to Cuba, she went to see Fidel Castro speak several times, even calling him charismatic, and upon his death, praised him, saying, "The passing of Commandant en Jefe is a great loss to the people of Cuba, even though the people of Cuba see him as a dictator who impoverished their island." Another group, the M19, took its belief in revolutionary anti-imperialism to extremes, violent extremes. The M19 was the first and only women-created and women-led domestic terrorist group. Since their founding in 1978, M19's tactics escalated from robbing armored trucks and abetting prison breaks to building their own explosives and carrying out terrorist bombings. From 1983 to 1984, M19 bombed an FBI office, the Israel Aircraft Industries building, the South African consulate in New York, DC's Fort McNair, and Navy Yard, which they bombed twice. But that wasn't enough for them. On the night of November 7, 1983, the M19 called the US Capitol switchboard and warned them to evacuate the building. Minutes later, the M19 bombed the north wing of the US Capitol. November 7, 2023 marks 40 years since the M19's bombing of the US Capitol. Members of the M19, like Susan Rosenberg, traveled to Cuba with and were radicalized by the Vence Ramos Brigade. The South Los Angeles Vence Ramos Brigade was led by Karen Bass, who is now mayor of Los Angeles.
Well,
Say what? No way.
so there's your mayor of Los Angeles, who.
Why am I always shocked by this, John? I'm just blown away. How is it possible that people like that ascend to leadership roles? By the way, people think of the mayor. How big a deal is the mayor? Well, when you're mayor of Los Angeles or New York City or Chicago, that's a really big deal. It's
Okay, so I'll tell you how it happens. It happens because the people that elevated her to that position are part of it too. It's evil, it's corrupt, it's dirty, and that's who she is. And more of that is coming out. Now, how about our illustrious Janice Quinones? Janice Quinones. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong, but whatever. This is the person who is in charge of the water district, LA Water District. She makes $750,000 a year. $750,000 a year, and she is coming under fire for managing the San Ynez reservoir and draining it during severe drought. She was reportedly aware of the faulty hydrant system and the empty reservoir months before the devastating wildfires. So here she is. She's in charge of the water throughout the LA area, making $750,000 a year. And according to all reports, she was recruited by Karen Bass. Karen Bass said, "Hey, Janice, why don't you come be our water director for $750,000 a year?" There you go.
Now, in the future, you may have to do some things you're going to be uncomfortable with, and it's possible that you may disagree with. And at first, they might go against your conscience. However, that $750,000 a year paycheck and some of the perks that come along with the job, they should help ease your conscience a little bit.
We're still on track to bring it all home. But before we do, did you know that there is a billionaire couple who own California's water supply?
I did, but tell the story. This is a fascinating one. By the way, speaking of billionaires, as you pull that up, I thought it was funny reading all these comments on X and Reddit where the billionaires, the Republican billionaires that are now trying to get affirmed into all these roles ought to pay for all the California devastation. Like, I don't know, there's 83 billionaires that try to get Kamala Harris elected. Maybe they ought to pitch in first. But anyways, please do show this. This is incredible.
I'm not going to show the whole thing because it's a bit long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a taste of it as a tease. Yeah. We're going to cut it up, make it make more sense, and then we'll finish this on Wednesday's show. But I do want you to get a piece of it here. So let's go ahead and see.
While 40 million Californians suffer through unprecedented drought, one billionaire couple owns a massive share of the state's water system, seized in a series of secretive meetings 2 decades ago. That system was largely paid for by the very taxpayers whose water these billionaires hold hostage. Urban water systems are desperate for water, but in 2023, they'll receive just 5% of what they requested from the state. The Resnicks are the biggest farmers in California. As of 2007, they owned 4 San Francisco's worth of farmland, and nearly half of Americans buy at least one of their products. Their pistachios, their pomegranate juice, their mandarins, their flowers. It's all under one massive umbrella, the Wonderful Company, a privately owned company worth at least $5 billion. The majority owners, the Resnicks, are worth at least $8 billion. How were they able to take over such a large percentage of what should be a shared public resource? This is The Classroom from More Perfect Union, and today we're looking at how the Resnicks got rich. Linda is a former child actress, the daughter of Jack Harris, a successful movie distributor of the 1950s, most well known for The Blob.
Starring Steve McQueen and a cast of exciting young people.
At 19, she founded her own advertising agency. Stewart was born to a middle-class New Jersey family and started his first business, a janitorial service, in grad school. He eventually acquired American Protection Services, a burglar alarm and security company. Linda approached him about marketing services for the company, and they hit it off, not knowing that one day they'd work together to take over California's water. The lovebirds became business partners. They bought Teleflora, the flower delivery company, and the Franklin Mint, purveyors of inane little tchotchkes. Linda was the marketing person, and Stewart was in charge of business. As Linda told the LA Times in 1993, "I've always said that Stewart and I together make one perfect person, like little salt and pepper shakers." In the late
Okay.
Like
there's a
little
lot more. There's a lot more to this story, and it gets a bit scary. But yeah, they do own 60% of the water supply in California. They get to decide where it goes. They also own a whole lot of other things. But do you remember a time when people in the news were making fun of Donald Trump's inability to drink from a water bottle? Do you remember that?
Of course.
Okay, let's just take a look at that real quick, see if we can't just pull this together.
These companies have announced investments in the United States worth more than $8 billion, 17,000 jobs.
17.
Thank you.
17.
Oh, they don't have water. That's okay. What? No, it's okay. Oh.
What kind of water is that?
Fiji.
Fiji. So I've always told you guys, he makes a big deal out of the most mundane things. And
there it is.
He makes, and then, if you remember, he holds it up and he kind of shakes and he drinks it with both hands. And people, oh my gosh, you can't even drink water. He's calling attention to the bottled water and the people who own the water in California.
It's so crazy. But after I started learning about this topic, I didn't bring it back to that clip, but I agree with you. That was planned. By the way, do you know who helped them out? Do you know who helped them ascend to water godness of California?
I do, but please tell the folks.
Dianne Feinstein, good Democrat. I'm just saying, member of the proud, well, now she's deceased, but proud member of the cabal until her untimely end. Well, I guess it was her timely end. Yeah,
she had a driver for 20 years that was a Chinese spy.
Yeah.
And of course she didn't know. She had no idea.
No idea. It's so crazy.
Where are these checks coming from?
That's so weird. Why am I so rich?
Are we speaking ill of the dead? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'd say it if she were, well, I guess if she were alive, we wouldn't be controversial, but.
Okay. So anyway, we'll come back. We'll tell you more about that because there's more to the story about the Resnick family and some of the other things, the wonderful things that they're doing to destroy California. I'm going to give you one more here, and then I'm going to bring it all back around to what I'm believing is some of the nefarious side of what's happening. Now, if you don't like it, you don't believe it, you don't agree with it, that's okay. You can come up with your own conclusions. I'm just drawing one based on all the things that I see and the things that we've been studying for a while now. So let me pause this here. This is, unfortunately, it is in our least favorite format. That is,
blah.
I know it's Instagram.
But at least he's trying to repent. I mean, trying not to go to jail, so he's repenting.
Okay, so here we go. Somebody home. So those are some of the homes that are there in the rich area, if you will. Those are some of the celebrities. We told you not all of the homes were celebrity, but some of them were. How about this? This, as you know, is a celebrity. And it's hard to see it behind you. I can't zoom in on that, unfortunately. But what you're seeing over her shoulder is a photo on her wall of a child, naked child, in a tote. In a tote.
Ugh.
I that was artwork on Jamie Lee Curtis's wall. And they did a follow-up interview with her, and that wasn't there. Now, this is months, maybe years ago, that this photo was actually taken. And it was over her shoulder in an interview that she was doing, a live interview. And then when they came back to her to redo the interview, the picture was down. Kind of disgusting. Don't know what it means. Don't know why you would have it there. Don't know why that would be some kind of, quote, art that you think is cool. Let me come back around. Now, we have to use some creative words to describe what I believe is happening here. And I have to be creative so that the social media groups don't destroy us. But here's what I kind of put all of this together thinking, yeah, this could make sense. So we have all of these cascade of failures. We've got the water that was shut off or not provided in plenty. We've got the draining of the San Ynez Reservoir when they didn't need to drain it. And by the way, why would you drain it? We've got a minimal supply coming down from the aqueduct, by the way. That's not something that we talked about, but that is in the Resnick piece that we'll talk more about on Wednesday. And we have the governor. He's cutting the budget for wildfires by $101 million. Then we've got the local Karen Bass. She cut $23 million out of the fire district's budget. So you've got all of those things in a row. Did I miss anything yet, David?
I thought it was 17.5 million, but I could have missed it. No, the 23 million is correct. This, by the way, I heard this was not true. I heard that this spread pretty quickly on X and Reddit and a few other places, but I heard this was not true. Here
was what Community Notes said. That did go on X, and then Community Notes came back and said, oh, they weren't holding them for emission standards. They were holding them for safety checks. Okay. Either way.
Okay. So you got, I think you got the water, you have the
budget cuts. Oh, the DEI. We got these people in place that have no business being there. And their priorities, by the way, we showed that on Wednesday's show where they came right out and said that their priorities were a diverse and equitable workplace.
Number one
Not,
priority.
let's save lives. It's a diverse and equitable workplace.
Yeah.
So we've got all of these cascade of failures lining up and ready to go. Then we have this tremendous windstorm that everyone knew about. By the way, they notified the mayor, and she left knowing that this windstorm was coming to town. They knew in advance that the windstorm was coming, which is not unreasonable based on weather models and stuff. They knew it was coming. She left town anyway and went to Ghana to the inauguration of a person that she'd never met before. It was important that she showed the flag, though. I'm just going to come out and say it. There's a celebrity. There's a person. Her name is Allie Carter. Allie Carter is a survivor of. This is where we have to get creative. Let's just call it exploitation. Okay. She's a survivor of exploitation. A lot of that exploitation has been going on. She claims that there are tunnels throughout all of LA, including under the Getty Center and the Getty Villa. Both of those are two different museums. They're in two different areas. And there's the Getty, thank you. And then the Getty Villa is down near the Santa Monica area, more Malibu than Santa Monica. All of these houses, if you see where the Playboy Mansion is listed there, thanks for bringing this up too, Dave. Playboy Mansion, there are said to be tunnels between the Getty Center and the Playboy Mansion, as well as in between Diddy's house and several of the other houses within the region. And that is how they would move these exploited people around. Am I doing a good job? You guys following me? So the idea is, the one thing that we forgot to talk about was it wasn't just one insurance company. It was several insurance companies canceled insurance policies and then made it near impossible for many of these people to get new policies on their house. So that was another, and that's a big one. So if there really are tunnels out there, and let's go back a few months, and before the election, Diddy gets arrested, and they have all of these videos of exploitation going on in his property. We already know about the Epstein stuff and what happened with Epstein, and that list has not gone out yet. And then if there really are tunnels up there, and there's been enough people talking about the tunnels that I believe that they really are there. So if there really are tunnels and they say, well, we need to get rid of all of that evidence of the tunnels and everything else. So they have these massive fires that they allow to get much worse than they would have otherwise. Then all that area is now desolate. If you look at it, it looks as if it were Nagasaki. The video, the aerial views of all of that area looks like Nagasaki. Well, when you go back through there, these people aren't going to have any insurance investigators come check on those places and then discover these tunnels inadvertently. So that's a way that they could go through and just kind of bulldoze the whole thing over and bury everything without anybody questioning, why are you bulldozing Mr. Jones's house? Well, we're bulldozing Mr. Jones's house because it's not there anymore. So my theory is that this is a cover-up, knowing that the incoming administration is going to find these things or could find these things, and they're trying to cover up a lot of that evidence before that happens. Again, it's just a theory. It could be wildly wrong. But when you look at who's coming in, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, all of the Intel folks are going to be completely redone. Ratliff and CIA. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to happen that these people are deathly afraid of. And then you look at the pictures like of Jamie Lee Curtis, and there's a bunch more stuff like that. I don't want to bring them all up, but there's a ton. I know that John Podesta's got some really creepy pictures in his house, and what have you. That's just my take. What do you think? You're muted.
I'm muted. I didn't want to talk over you. It's a good monologue, but look, it's, okay, just going to go out there and say, what is all this possible? Well, look, I have a little clip here of Biden saying unconditional support for the first 6 months, all the money you need, spare no expense. Please, I will pay for all the salaries. And by me, I mean the taxpayers from the rest of the country will pay for everything. Just, you got to get to work rebuilding quickly. So you think about every single time that Biden said, I'll pay to fix that disaster. It's always around some controversial thing, right? What was the name of the container ship that hit the bridge? Like it's a container, right? Immediately, we'll pay for it. Why? Because you don't want an investigation. And that's why it's easy for me to hear your theory and say, you know what, John? You've got something there. And I could believe that, because even though it sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, we've heard enough about child trafficking in Hollywood. We've heard enough about some of the horrible things that have happened there, and some untimely, this is a proper use of it, untimely deaths of people that were investigating it. Multiply your worst fears by 100.
James, serious question. As someone who has enormous respect for your talent as an actor, I'm curious, how evil is Hollywood? James' response, multiply your worst fears by 100.
Yeah. So do I think it's possible? At this point, I would not rule it out. And I do think it's easier to get in there and cover the evidence today before someone can go look for it, because later, 6 months, 9 months from now, they get in there to look for it. There's nothing here to find. It was all just somebody was making it all up. It's not real.
Well, I mean, if you think about these people put it right in our face a lot of times. You think about Mel Gibson when he went on his rant and everybody said he was crazy because he talked about all of these things openly. And then they said, oh, he's off his meds. He's gone crazy. And then you think about Ricky Gervais at the Academy Awards.
So
he
good.
roasted people, them.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's been invited back, but I am surprised that he lived through the night.
He was ornery. I was shocked. I was like, oh my God. And no one's pulling the microphone from him. This is crazy.
Yeah.
There have been a few that have spoken out, and there have been a few that were doing some investigative work that aren't here anymore. Is it possible? Yeah, I could get on board with that theory. I think it may have started, like the fire itself could have started from any number of means, including something that could have been completely unexpected. Once it started, when you have winds like that, now are you prepared to fight those fires? The answer was no. And every step of the way, you could say, you knew, but you weren't prepared. You knew you weren't prepared. You knew we weren't prepared. The insurance companies said, hey, we need to charge more because this is prime for wildfires. And if you don't let us raise our rates, you have to clean it up, LA. You're not going to clean it up. We're going to raise our rates. What do you mean we can't raise our rates? Then we're going to cancel those policies. And the fires are happening. And it just so happens, I didn't know she was a Marxist. The mayor is off in Africa. Yeah. I mean, why not?
So here's one more piece of fuel to that. No, I'm not going to go there. Didn't mean to. Almost went down the wrong road. Didn't mean that.
You can't
Here's
say.
one more piece of evidence towards my theory. How's that? One more piece of evidence towards my theory.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all. And corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption. And there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every inspector general's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies. It doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
How about
Term limits? Term limits? How controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting tie too, by the way. Interesting tie he was wearing.
Oh, shoot. Now I got to go back and look at his tie again. I was so busy listening to his list, thinking that's a list. When you ask somebody, what's your platform? Oh, well, you know, platforms are important and wheels on the bus go around. Yeah, it's a different tie. Are those Greenland's colors? Just kidding.
Oh, actually, it's the trans flag colors.
Are they? No.
Yep, sure is.
All right. Well, there you go.
It just, you just never know with Donald Trump. You don't know what he's doing or what he's saying. You're fired. Yeah, good.
I will say, yeah, I will say going forward, if I see him fumbling, drinking some water, I'm going to look to see what brand it is.
You just never know with this guy. You don't.
Some people are upset a little bit, John, because they thought by now they're laughing at us. A quick intermission. She's laughing at us, John.
So, MAGA, did your gas prices go down? Did your food prices go down? Did your stupidity win? Ding, 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 ding.
I think she's confused as to who the president is right now. Anyways, just your life is better now that you've seen that.
I think I just lost a couple brain cells after that.
I'm gonna say I suspect she might have been drinking, but maybe not.
The worst part is that those people vote and they don't even understand how it works.
No idea. She has no idea. It's like
So
the last time
the good Texan says FISA must be eliminated. I don't know how far you are in the book. I know that all of you guys ran out and got the book. I wish I had put a link together for my, I do have an Amazon, what do you call it? Influencers account. And I could have gotten money for every book that you bought, but I didn't. I know that you guys are all reading The Government Gangsters. I do know that there are several of you that are. I can tell you that Kash Patel is for a complete revamp of FISA, but he wants FISA to stay. And he makes an argument that I could bend towards that direction. Anyway, just saying.
Well, the stipulation that for you to get a warrant to go and actually eavesdrop. By the way, it was proved that because of the FISA warrant that Podesta was able to help arrange. Because of that, his campaign was spied on. You remember that? They were like, oh, you're crazy. Oh, there he is again, that lunatic. He was spied on. That's incredible. Nothing came from that. Nothing ever happened. Now, memory serves, there was a president who actually resigned. He was impeached and resigned because people within his group went and spied on the opposition, the opposing party, and recorded some things they weren't supposed to record. And he resigned. It was impeached and resigned over it. In this case here, nothing bad happened. It's crazy.
Well, it just depends on which side you're on. Yeah, Marie, apparently you're reading the book, right? Apparently you're putting blankets on the floor so you don't hurt your jaw when it falls. Well, that's a good point. I mean, there are, not sure how far you are through the book, Marie, but there's some jaw droppers. And there's a segment where he has, here's all the problems. He goes through the whole book and talks about all the things that have happened. In the end, he has this is what I would do. This is how I would solve it. And it's really good. Really good stuff.
I hope he is confirmed.
So, yeah, Marie, I think the worst part is that she thinks that he's already president. but you know, that pesky January 20th. Okay, I got something for you. Here's another one. I don't subscribe to this one yet, but I heard it today, and I want you to. It's hard to go into this one, but I'm going to go 30,000, but I'm not going to get in the weeds on this one. So I saw a quick like a TikTok, but it was over on one of the other programs today. This guy says Donald Trump is having a rally on the 19th of January, the day before the inaugural. He's going to have a big rally the day before the inauguration. Why? It's interesting. This guy's theory is that Donald Trump is going to announce at that inaugural that he is not going to be inaugurated on the 20th because there's, again, a lot of people that believe that we were taken over as a corporation back in, was it 1913, when they switched over to this new Fed and everything, and it was the United States, the corporation of the United States of America. And so I guess in 2020, they signed into law the new Declaration of Independence. It's interesting because if you go back and you listen to Melania Trump, she's talking about on 4th of July of could have been 2020. She said it was so exciting watching the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And you thought, well, it's broken English. Maybe she is meaning that going back and watching some of that stuff and watching. No. But if Donald Trump is saying that he's not going to do an inauguration on the 20th, because if he did, he would be continuing the corporation of the United States of America, that he is then instead saying that he is now currently the president. And by the way, he is going to be the 19th president of America.
And then what happens to all the ones that came between 19?
They were presidents of the corporation of the United States of America. Again, I don't know. I haven't dug into the whole corporation thought. A lot of people have, and there's a lot of people that can give you mountains of evidence that that's the case. I haven't researched it enough to know, but I just heard that, and all I know is it's odd that he's going to have a rally the day before the inaugural. That's kind of odd.
Well, yeah. And
maybe
also
we should plan on covering the day before instead of the inauguration.
No kidding. Isn't the 20th hold on. Isn't the 20th Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday also? Am I wrong?
Shame on me.
I'm going to have to look. I think it is. I think it's a holiday. I mean, yeah, Martin Luther King Day 2025, which is Monday the 20th. So who knows? On Sunday the 19th, we might be surprised by a rally, and if not, then on Monday the 20th, we'll be we'll have the inauguration. He
is having a rally on the 19th. We know that he's having a rally on the 19th. So
okay, good. Well, if it goes to midnight, then they can complete the inauguration on midnight 30, midnight 01.
If you need an inauguration, again, we don't know
an inauguration, right? Meanwhile, globally,
nothing would surprise me this year, David. That's all I'm saying. Nothing would surprise me.
I wouldn't. I might be surprised. I might be shocked, but not surprised. Like, oh my God, I can't. That's crazy. But also, it's not surprising that something crazy happened. So that is possible. The entire global financial system, as much as people want to say it's not, it rests on the US dollar. And if we somehow decide we're not going to pay our $36 or $36.5 trillion worth of debt because it was all borne by people that were not here legitimately, it's gone. That would be a catastrophe. That would be seismic.
Well, hold on a second. We already know that there are many people who subscribe to the theory that we are going to change our entire monetary policy in the coming year. Now, the other part about that is maybe, if you think about this, maybe some of what's going on in LA with all of the loss of wealth there, maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's going to start a collapse. By the way, how many people do you think will actually stay in California after this?
Oh, why? Why would you stay?
The total is like 19,000 homes now.
This is, I I will show you. This is what is on. I know you like to look at this too, so I will share it. Let's see. Can you bring it? Oh, I guess I can do it. Let's do it this way. Oops. The government should create, issue, and circulate all the currency and credits needed to satisfy the spending power of the government and the buying power of consumers. By the adoption of these principles, the taxpayers will be saved immense sums of interest. Money will cease to be master and become the servant of humanity. Now, we have $36 trillion worth of debt. $2 trillion were added to the deficit this year. And if you're wondering, what is the impact of that? It's this number right here, $1 trillion. It's incredible. That's what we have to pay. And Janet Yellen, before she leaves, that was one of the gifts that she gave us. And but if you change the entire system and all that goes away, look, I'm excited for what comes next. Put us back on the gold and silver standard. I think that will be fantastic.
So the Good Texan posted a link to a Simpsons episode that shows all the fires and all the mayhem and everything. I saw that earlier today. It's rather interesting. And, there's so many things people will point to, the prognostications of the Simpsons and how many times they've been right. It is spooky. Not sure how they do it. I know that you would probably subscribe to the time travel theory. But I don't know what it is. What I do know is that there are a lot of things that have come up in Simpsons episodes that show these things happening. And this one particularly talks about 2025.
The Simpsons are so good at predicting the future. Time travel, John. It's like, time travel.
By the way, did you see that Zuck came around?
Yes. I think it's a please don't send me to jail. I think that's what it is.
These people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse. And it's like these documents it's all kind of out there.
Oh, did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails, the emails are published. It's all kind of out there. And they're like, and basically it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. They want us to take down this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio looking at a TV talking about how 10 years from now or something, you're going to see an ad that says, okay, if you took a COVID vaccine, you're eligible for, for this kind of payment, like this sort of like class action lawsuit type meme. And they're like, no, you have to take that down. And we just said, no, we're not going to take down humor and satire. We're not going to take down things that are true. And then at some point, I guess, I don't know, it flipped a bit. I mean, Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then like all these different agencies and branches of government basically just like started investigating, coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Wow.
So at the beginning, it kind of seemed like, okay, we should give a little bit of deference to the government and the health authorities on how we should play this. But when it went from, 2 weeks to flatten the curve to, and like in the beginning, it was like, okay, there aren't enough masks. Masks aren't that important. To then it's like, oh no, you have to wear a mask. And, everything was shifting around. It just became very difficult to kind of follow. And this really hit the most extreme, I'd say, during the Biden administration when they were trying to roll out the vaccine program. And now I'm generally like pretty pro rolling out vaccines. I think on balance, the vaccines are more positive than negative. But I think that while they're trying to push that program, they also tried to censor anyone who is basically arguing against it. And they pushed us super hard to take down things that were honestly were true, right? I mean, they basically pushed us and said, anything that says that vaccines might have side effects, you basically need to take down. And I was just like, well, we're not going to do that. Like,
I'm going to stop that. But
you did. And then
let me hold on. Let me just wrap this one up real quick. If we go back and we look at the date that DARPA's program, DARPA and the CIA, stopped their program that was supposed to be collecting data on every citizen of the earth, starting with all the citizens of America, the day that they stopped that program was the day that they launched, meaning, of course, Zuckerberg, because he's a genius, launched Facebook, or the Facebook at the time. So there's many people who speculate that it was a CIA program all along. And if that's the case, then he has been under CIA control all this time. And then the new administration comes in and says, hey, by the way, we're in charge now. We got you. But you better start turning things around. And you turn things around, you stay out of Gitmo. You don't turn things around, we got a place for you there, and a cute orange jumpsuit to go with your hair. I think that that's a plausible possibility about what happened. And I think it makes more sense than him getting a conscience, because I don't think he has a conscience still.
I don't think so either. I think he's again, it's I don't want to be held accountable for what I've done. And we have laws on our books, federal laws, that protect the pharmaceutical companies from any adverse reactions from their vaccines. And I'm going to use vaccines in quotes, air quotes, because what we've defined a vaccine as now is different than what it was before mRNA medical devices were introduced. I wonder if you can, I'm just curious, can the new administration say, you represented this to us fraudulently, it was pushed illegally, and therefore you're not entitled to protection because the premise of the protection is a good faith, and there was no good faith. You lied, people lied with you, it's fraudulent, and therefore you have no protection from lawsuits. Sue away, people.
You and I would think so. We would hope that that would be the case, but you know, a case like this will go all the way to the Supremes, and it all depends on the makeup of the Supreme Court at the time. So we'll have to see what happens.
We'll have to see. All right, look, I got to spend a minute on this. January 10th, is Trump going to jail or not? Trump didn't go to jail. Is it okay if I talk about this? Yeah.
Please.
Sneak this in? Okay. So Trump gets his unconditional discharge, which again is, so commonplace, right? So he's guilty, but we're not going to actually have him, serve time or pay a fine or anything. So the question so many people ask, well, so many people say 34 counts, he's guilty, he's a felon, Just when you think of felon, you think about somebody who robbed a store at gunpoint or, did some heinous crime. I was about to say some things I know YouTube will be upset about, but felonies, your immediate thought is you did something really wrong, really bad. Okay, so what did he do that was really bad? And I just want to spend just a minute here on this. Go in the Wayback Machine. There is an ex-porn star. I don't think she's still a porn star, who said Trump and I had sex a long time ago, and if you don't, pay me money, I'm going to come forward and tell the world about it. Anyway, she did anyways. Michael Cohen, Trump's attorney at the time, said, I have to stop this from happening. He made this decision in 2016. Allegedly, Trump was aware of it. Who knows if he was aware of it or not, because Michael Cohen, instead of going to Trump and saying, we have to pay for this, took some money from his own personal account. I think he took a second mortgage on his property, took some money from his own personal account, $130,000, and paid Stormy Daniel. Paid her. Done. Then in 2017, he said, I need to get paid back for this. Now, by the way, the election's over. Just for the record, in case you've forgotten what happened, he's now been elected and he's going to go be our president. So he says, I want to get paid back. So he goes and he cuts a deal with one of the executives in Trump's organization. And the executive said, not only are we going to pay you back the $130,000 that you paid, in addition to that, we're going to give you $50,000 for this technology company, which had nothing to do with anything related to Stormy Daniels. And then we're going to gross you up. We're going to give you some additional money. We're going to double that amount. So 50 plus 130, $180,000. And then because there could be tax implication, you're going to go ahead and gross you up. We're going to double it. So we're going to give you $360,000. Then you didn't get a bonus this year, and we know you're upset about that, we're going to go ahead and write you a check for a bonus too for another $60,000. So all of it adds up to $420,000. And then on this handwritten note, this is where they immortalize the whole thing. $420,000 is going to be paid to Michael Cohen. Now, how is it paid to Cohen? It's paid to him by giving him a check, and he's going to get $35,000 a month over a 12-month period. The first check will be for $70,000. The remaining ones will be for $35,000 over the next 12 months. And the check itself is written from the ledger. So so first off, this is Michael Cohen. This is one of Trump's executives. You could argue, Trump, it's your company. You should be aware of these things. I would make that argument. But regardless, the $130,000 allegedly was to maintain a non-disclosure agreement, which, by the way, is very common. If companies are sued, there are times where it's less expensive to settle than it is to go to court. So that would be the argument I'd make. Some people are saying, well, he didn't want the world to know that he may have slept with a porn star. Well, in 2017, it's already done. The world, whether the world knows or not, it doesn't matter. The outcome of the election is already sealed. But regardless, so now the checks are written, and I'll just show this little chart here. So every time a check is written, this is count 1, count 2, because a check's written there. Or these are the invoices. So checks, voucher, invoice. And for each of the invoices, there were 11 of them. That's 11 counts. For each of the vouchers, there's 12 of them. There were 12 counts for each of the checks. So you add these up, you have 34 counts. Now, the actual mistake the crime here was that it was improperly recorded in their ledger. It was improperly recorded as a legal expense, and it should have instead been recorded as a campaign expense, which, by the way, had he wrote that down as a campaign expense, then he'd probably be in a whole different set of hot water over campaign violations. Anyways, many legal experts have said it is absolutely a legal expense if you are in fact going to pay somebody to as part of a settlement or as part of any kind of a non-disclosure settlement. It's a legal expense. Their argument was, no, you're trying to do this because you're trying to prevent this from going public so that it doesn't interfere with you actually becoming president. I just want to remind you, this is in 2017. You can see the dates on these. It's very clear that the dates of all of these invoices are all in 2017. So these are the 34 counts. Now, it goes further. When the jury got their instructions, they were told, hey, it could be a tax law violation. It could be a New York State campaign violation. It could be a federal campaign violation. We're not sure. You can go ahead and decide, but if you believe one of those is true, just say guilty. You don't have to say which one you chose. Just here's some things to think about. But if you think he did it wrong, you go ahead and say it. And so, of course, the jurors were like, we don't really know what unlawful means, but the judge gave us, I forget how many pages, 50 pages, John, you probably remember that, and gave us 3 different reasons. Clearly, one of those must be true. Guilty, 34 counts, he's a felon. And so if you think writing something down in your ledger, writing a check and creating an invoice for something where you said this is I'm noting this business expense as a legal expense, that rises to the level of a felony. In that case, just that one instance would be 3 felonies. Then
let me interrupt real quick. It's important to point out here that these would have been misdemeanor offenses. They would not have been felony offenses, and they were also questionable about whether they were still within the statute of limitations. They had to stretch that, and they also had to rewrite the law. There were other people, as in campaign finance and the federal government. They wouldn't bring charges. This whole thing was just an absolute sham But what happened on the 10th?
What happened on the 10th is Marshawn had his moment in the sun, but he did say it's an unconditional discharge. You're still guilty and you are convicted now. You are the first, I think he's the first president convicted of 34 felony counts.
Well, the interesting thing is that unconditional discharge is not something that is generally used in law. A conditional discharge is a legal sentence that allows a person to be released from custody or prison if they meet certain conditions. The conditions are usually outlined in a probation order and can include attending counseling for drug rehabilitation, performing community service, reporting to a probation officer, agreeing to none of these things apply. And again, it's an unconditional, which means no fine, no jail time, no probation, no nothing. It's you're guilty, but we don't care.
We don't care. You're guilty. We didn't really even have to try this case. We said no to your expert witnesses. We said no, you're not going to hear from a person who is an expert on election campaign laws. Nope, we don't want to hear any of those. It's a misdemeanor that we stretched into a felony. It's a state level. We're going to try it as though it's a federal crime. We're going to do everything we can. And at the end of the day, what? And at
the end of the day, I think they're trying to hold this as a place marker in case on the 19th there is some sort of unrest, and then they can tack this onto that and say, we're going to go back, because they can go back. Apparently, the way it was written, they can go back and resentence based upon any further actions from him. And I think that that's what they're hoping for. I don't know. I think honestly, I think that once Trump gets in there, they're not going to get to do anything else. He's, I think today, or was it over the weekend, Jack Smith has resigned as special prosecutor. Other people are lining up and getting out before the hammer comes down, because the hammer is coming down. You've heard all of the people lining up about what their plans are when Trump gets into place, and it's not pretty for any of these people.
What's this saying that keeps going around? If you rob the jewelry store and you get caught, you don't get to keep the diamonds. I think that's what I keep hearing. I hope that in this case here, him and his daughter, who's profited, I think she's made something like $15 million, a nice healthy sum for herself. I hope they have to give it all back and more.
All right, I got something else for you before we head out. This one's kind of interesting. This is from across the pond. We always love to hear their opinion.
Here is why is the guy who is probably the richest man in the world setting out, as he has done, saying that he is going to undermine the British government, that he's trying to get rid of a recently democratically elected government in this country. That is not good, Barry, for democracy.
You belong to a party that sent activists to America to actively plot to, and I quote, kill Elon Musk's Twitter. Labor activists in a center for countering digital hate that was set up by a certain Morgan McSweeney, happens to be Keir Starmer's chief of staff. I wonder why Elon Musk has suddenly got a really strong interest in Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. Because let's be honest, Barry, all of those statements that Labour MPs made about Donald Trump, all of those bizarre statements they made about Elon Musk, guess what? These guys don't really like that. They don't like being abused. They don't like being insulted. So they're going to call you out when you fail, like when you fail with these white working class girls in communities.
Well, look, it is about the richest man in the world trying to undermine democracy. That is wrong. And if you can't see that, Matt, then I would be very surprised.
I've spent more of my time recently looking at how the Labour Party has been undermining free speech and free expression.
If you can't see that, Matt, we're going to visit you at 3 a.m. when you're in your when you're sound asleep. We'll be at your door front, ready to wrestle you up and take you to the brig.
So I love that the guy called him out. That doesn't often happen, that there is a true call out like that. By the way, the good Texan, or we'll just call you Tex. Why don't we call it that? The funny thing is this has been out there for over a year, that there are, I think the 37 was the number that came up, biolabs in Ukraine. And it goes back to what they wanted originally. When you talked to Putin, he said he wanted the denazification of Ukraine. He wanted a a barrier between he and the next NATO state, and then he also wanted to get rid of all the bioweapons labs. So interesting that she's coming out there and saying that too. That just means that they're going to go after it. One more thing. Donald Trump's been talking about Greenland a lot. We want Greenland. We want Greenland.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me, doggone it, but did you see that Greenland wants to talk?
Yes. Okay. So look, there's it's not it here. Let me read it because you'd have to translate. Oh, where did it go? Shoot. I just had it up. I literally just had it up. They want to talk here. I'll tell you, they want to talk to us. They're interested in having conversation. Now, Denmark may not be interested. And there's a poll, and the poll was like 53% or 57% of the people that were polled. Now, a poll is a poll is a poll. Who pays attention to them? Who says who's responding to it? So, these things are flawed. But nonetheless, the fact is they get a lot of respondents that raise their hand. Now, John, how many people are in Greenland? How many people live there? Call it home. 55,000. I'll just tell you.
55. I thought it was 46.
$55,000. So guess what? I saw somebody else made the comment. I thought it was brilliant. Give them $1 million US each, which is a lot of money, by the way. $1 million, a lot of money. And we'll just go ahead and own the country from here on out. And you guys can stay there. You can come here. It's US country. And I did see this. I thought it was kind of funny. Want to join the US? Sure. Denmark. She's not interested.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Great.
I think that there's going to be more to come on the LA fires. The fires are not out yet. I've seen some of the containment numbers, 11%. There's another wind event scheduled. Interesting. Expected to come into town tomorrow. So we're praying that wind event is mild at the most. I'm hoping that they get their arms around it. It really is a bummer that many good people have lost their homes, and please don't look at these as these are the wealthiest people and they can afford it. That's not the way it works. It just isn't. And again, all those personal belongings that they've lost that will never be replaced. And again, it's not about money. These are human beings and they've lost everything, and that's or everything in that household. So on that happy note, David, Wednesday, we're going to have a follow-up on the folks that own the water rights to California. We're going to follow up with any of the other DEI madness that's going down in California, follow up on what's happening with the fires and any further information. And I'm going to keep my eye open because something's happening on the 19th, and I think it's more than just a rally. So we will be around. We're definitely going to live stream the inaugural day. If we need to, we'll live stream parts of that rally on the 19th. That should be a shorter one. It's not going to be an all-day event, so we'll see what happens. What do you think, guys?
I think it says, so there was a question earlier, where is the rally? It sounds like it's in DC. So
DC,
let's all go to DC for the rally.
Let's not. You know what they did the last time people met in DC? So that's about it. Anything else from you, Dave?
No, it's all good. This isn't the eye. This is the storm. We are in the storm right now. I think every day we will be, what'd you say earlier? Not surprised, shocked, not surprised, not surprised, not shocked, not surprised. Things will happen.
8 days. 8 days.
8 days. We are in it's almost a week away. We're almost there.
Well, you guys have a wonderful evening. Good luck. God bless. We'll see you guys.
What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we the people choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors
that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
Black and